The classroom door slammed open so hard the wall shook. 24-year-old Miss Emma Winters froze mid-sentence at the whiteboard as 3 senior boys stormed into her AP Literature class. The leader, a broad-shouldered 18-year-old named Brock Harrison, pointed directly at her. "We need to talk." Now, his voice carried the kind of menace that made her other students shrink in their seats. But Emma didn't shrink. She set down her marker slowly, deliberately, her movements controlled like a fighter entering the ring. What nobody in Oakwood High knew was that their newest English teacher had spent the last 10 years training in mixed martial arts. They were about to find out. "Gentlemen," Emma said, her voice steady as granite. "You're interrupting my class? Whatever this is about can wait until after." "No." Brock cut her off. Stepping further into the room, his friends, Chase Mitchell and Ryan Torres, flanked him like attack dogs. "It can't wait. You failed me on that essay. You're going to change it." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Emma's students watched with wide eyes, some already pulling out phones to record what they sensed was about to become legendary. She'd only been teaching at Oakwood for 3 weeks. But that was long enough to know Brock Harrison's reputation: star quarterback, mayor's son, untouchable. "Your essay was plagiarized," Emma stated simply, 60% copied from online sources. "The grade stands." Brock's face flushed deep red. He took another step forward, close enough now that Emma could smell the protein shake on his breath. "You don't know who you're messing with. My dad owns this town. One word from him, and you're gone." Emma didn't move, didn't blink, step back. "Brock, or what?" He laughed, ugly and sharp. "What's a little teacher like you going to do?" That's when Chase decided to get clever. He moved behind Emma while she was focused on Brock, reaching for the stack of graded papers on her desk. His hand never made it. In one fluid motion, Emma pivoted, caught his wrist, and guided him into a controlled arm lock that had him yelping in surprise. "Don't touch my desk," she said calmly, releasing him with a gentle push that sent him stumbling back to his friends. The classroom erupted in whispers. Someone said, "Did you see that?" Another whispered, "She's like a ninja or something." Brock's embarrassment transformed into rage. "You just assaulted a student? You're done. You're so done. I defended my property from theft." Emma corrected, picking up her phone from the desk, "And this conversation is over. You can take your concerns to Principal Coleman. Now leave my classroom. We're not going anywhere." Ryan finally spoke up, trying to salvage their power play. "Not until you fix that grade." Emma's finger hovered over her phone screen. "Then I'll have security escort you out. Your choice." For a moment, the standoff held. 28 students held their breath, watching their petite literature teacher face down 3 of the school's most feared bullies without flinching. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. "This isn't over," Brock snarled, backing toward the door. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." After they left, Emma turned back to her class as if nothing had happened. "Now, where were we?" Ah yes, the symbolism in Chapter 7. But her hands were steady for a different reason than her students thought. She knew Brock was right about one thing. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. That afternoon, Emma sat in her empty classroom grading papers when her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Check your car." Her stomach tightened. She'd parked in the faculty lot that morning like always. Through her second-floor window, she could see her modest Honda Civic, and the crowd gathered around it. By the time she reached the parking lot, a dozen students had formed a circle around her vehicle. Someone had spray-painted obscene words across the hood in bright red paint. Her tires had been slashed, the driver's side mirror hung by wires. "Oh my God." Miss Winters, Sophie Chen, one of her AP students, rushed over. "I saw them doing it, but they threatened." "It's okay, Sophie." Emma surveyed the damage with practiced calm, though inside her fury built like pressure in a boiler. "Did you see who?" Sophie glanced around nervously. "Chase and Ryan, but everyone knows Brock ordered it. They were laughing about teaching the new girl a lesson." Emma pulled out her phone and began taking photos. Other students were already posting videos to social media. Within minutes, number Oakwood Bullies was trending locally. "You should report this." Marcus Jefferson, another student, said quietly, "Though Brock's dad pretty much owns the police chief, so I appreciate the concern." Emma said, continuing to document everything. But I can handle this. The next morning, Emma arrived at school to find her classroom door plastered with printed screenshots from a fake social media account someone had created in her name. The posts were vile, racist, completely fabricated. Students gathered in the hallway, some looking disgusted, others confused. "That's not real," Sophie said loudly to anyone who would listen. "Someone made this up." Emma calmly removed each paper, adding them to a folder she'd started. Evidence. Always collect evidence. Master Chen had taught her that patience was just as important as power in a fight. During first period, her projector suddenly displayed inappropriate images in the middle of her PowerPoint presentation. Someone had hacked into her computer. She switched it off without missing a beat and continued teaching from memory. But she could see Brock in the back row, smirking at his phone. At lunch, Vice Principal Harrison, no relation to Brock, despite the shared last name, called her to his office. "We've had some complaints," he said, not meeting her eyes, "about your aggressive behavior toward students." Emma sat perfectly straight. "You mean when I prevented a student from stealing papers from my desk? The boys say you attacked them unprovoked. There are 28 witnesses who saw exactly what happened." Harrison shifted uncomfortably. "Yes. Well, sometimes these situations can be misinterpreted. Perhaps if you apologized to Brock, changed his grade to something more reasonable. You're asking me to change a plagiarized paper's grade and apologize to students who vandalized my car?" Emma's voice remained level, but there was steel underneath. "Alleged vandalism," Harrison corrected quickly. "No proof it was them." Emma stood. "I see. Thank you for clarifying where the administration stands on this. Miss Winters, I'm trying to help you here. Brock's family has a lot of influence. Sometimes it's better to pick your battles." "I don't pick battles, Mr. Harrison. They pick me, and I never back down from bullies, no matter who their daddy is." She left his office, knowing she'd just painted a bigger target on her back. But some things were worth the risk. Her students deserved to see that standing up to wrong was possible, even when the system was rigged against you. Thursday brought a new level of harassment. Emma found her faculty parking spot blocked by Brock's massive pickup truck. When she parked elsewhere, she returned to find her windshield covered in vulgar stickers that took an hour to remove. During class, her internet connection mysteriously cut out every time she tried to use online resources. Someone had even called in a false complaint to the school board, claiming she'd shown inappropriate content to minors. But the worst part was watching how it affected her other students. They were nervous, distracted. Some stopped participating in class discussions. Afraid of drawing Brock's attention, the bullying was spreading like a disease, infecting the entire learning environment. "Miss Winters?" Jasmine Rodriguez approached her desk after school, voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to thank you for standing up to them. Nobody ever does that." Emma looked at the girl, noticing for the first time the way she hunched her shoulders, made herself small. "Have they bothered you too?" Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. "Last year, I reported it, but nothing happened. Brock's dad made sure of that. That's why seeing you fight back, it means something." That night, Emma sat in her small apartment, looking at the evidence she'd collected, photos, videos, witness statements. She thought about Jasmine, about all the students who'd suffered in silence because the system protected bullies instead of victims. She made a decision. Friday morning arrived with storm clouds that matched Emma's mood. She entered school with a different energy, purposeful and focused. Her students noticed immediately. "You okay, Miss W?" Marcus asked as she arranged papers on her desk. "Perfect," she replied, and something in her tone made several students exchange glances. 20 minutes into first period, Brock strutted in late as usual. Didn't even offer an excuse. He dropped into his seat with exaggerated casualness, legs spread wide, taking up space like he owned it. "Mr. Harrison," Emma said without looking up from her book. "You're late. That's detention." The class went silent. Nobody gave Brock Harrison detention. Nobody. He laughed. "Yeah. Right. I had football practice. Practice doesn't start until 3:30. Detention. Today, my classroom, I'm not coming to your stupid detention." Emma finally looked up, meeting his eyes with calm intensity. "Then you'll fail this class. Your choice." You can't fail me for missing detention. I can fail you for missing 20% of my classes, turning in plagiarized work, and refusing to follow basic classroom rules. Would you like me to continue? Brock stood so fast, his chair scraped against the floor. You're going to regret this. Is that a threat? Mr. Harrison, because I'm recording this conversation, and threats against teachers are grounds for expulsion. His face went purple. Recording? You can't record without consent. Actually, in a public classroom setting with clear notice, I can. It's in the syllabus you signed. Page 3. Section 2. For the first time since Emma had met him, Brock looked uncertain. He glanced at his friends. But Chase and Ryan seemed equally lost. They were used to teachers who backed down, who could be intimidated or bought. Emma was neither. Sit down, Brock, she said quietly, or leave. But if you leave, don't come back without a parent conference. The standoff lasted 10 seconds. 20. 30. Finally, Brock grabbed his backpack and stormed out. Slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows, the rest of the class passed in tense silence. When the bell rang, students filed out quickly. But Sophie lingered. Miss Winters, he's not going to let this go. His dad, the school board, they'll come after you. Emma smiled. A fighter's smile. Let them come. That afternoon, Emma was reviewing lesson plans when her classroom door opened. She expected Brock, maybe with his father in tow. Instead, Principal Coleman entered, followed by 3 members of the school board and Mayor Harrison himself. Miss Winters, Coleman began, clearly uncomfortable. We need to discuss your treatment of certain students. Emma stood but didn't offer seats. You mean my enforcement of academic standards? Mayor Harrison stepped forward. He was an older version of his son. Same broad shoulders. Same entitled sneer. Let's not play games. You've been harassing my boy. Creating a hostile learning environment. I have documentation of every interaction with your son. Emma replied, including vandalism of my property, super harassment, and attempts at academic fraud. Would you like to see it? Fabricated evidence. The mayor dismissed with a wave. The word of a first-year teacher against established members of the community? We know how that plays out. One of the board members, Mrs. Blackwood, spoke up. Perhaps it would be best for everyone if you reconsidered your position here. We could arrange a favorable recommendation, help you find placement elsewhere. You're trying to run me out of town? Emma almost laughed. Because I won't let your students cheat? Because you're disruptive. Mayor Harrison snapped. This is a final warning. Back off my son, or face the consequences. Emma walked to her desk, pulled out her folder of evidence. With all due respect, Mayor Harrison, your son is a bully who's been terrorizing students for years, and you've enabled it. That ends now. You have no idea who you're dealing with. The mayor's voice dropped to a threat. Neither do you, Emma replied. After they left, Emma sat alone in her classroom, knowing she'd just declared war on the most powerful family in town. But she thought of Jasmine. Of all the students who deserved better, sometimes the right thing wasn't the easy thing. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You're going to pay for disrespecting the Harrisons. She deleted it and went back to grading papers. Whatever came next, she'd be ready. Monday morning brought chaos. Emma arrived to find the main hallway crowded with students, all staring at their phones. As she pushed through, she heard whispers of her name, saw the shocked looks. Miss Winters, Marcus ran up to her, phone extended. You need to see this. Someone had created a deep-fake video of her in a compromising situation. It was obviously fake to anyone who looked closely. But in the age of viral content, who looked closely? The video had already been shared hundreds of times. Emma took a deep breath, centered herself the way she did before a fight. Thank you for showing me. Marcus, aren't you going to do something? I am. She walked straight to the main office, past the secretary's startled protest, and into Principal Coleman's office, where he was meeting with the IT director, Miss Winters. You can't just. Someone created pornographic deepfake content of me and distributed it to minors. She stated clearly, that's a federal crime. I'm filing a police report, contacting the FBI's Cybercrimes Division, and my attorney. I trust the school will cooperate fully with the investigation. Coleman paled. Now, let's not be hasty. Hasty? Emma's voice rose for the first time. Your students are sharing pornographic content of a teacher. If you don't act immediately, you're complicit." The IT director spoke up quickly. "We can trace the origin. Digital forensics will show who created and first distributed it. Do it." Coleman ordered. Suddenly realizing the legal nightmare he was facing, lock down all school computers. Check access logs. Everything. Within hours, the trail led exactly where Emma expected, to a computer in the athletics department, accessed with Chase Mitchell's student ID. By lunch, uniformed police officers were escorting Chase out in handcuffs as the entire school watched. Brock found Emma in her classroom during her free period. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by something desperate. "You have to stop this," he said. Chase didn't know it was illegal. He was just committing a federal crime. Emma finished. "Actions have consequences. Brock, something your father should have taught you. My dad will destroy you for this." Emma stood, and for the first time, Brock seemed to realize how she carried herself, the balanced stance, the controlled breathing, the way she moved with economical precision. "Your dad can try," she said, "but I've faced bigger bullies than him, and I don't lose." That afternoon, Mayor Harrison called an emergency school board meeting. Parents packed the auditorium. Divided between those horrified by the deepfake incident and those still loyal to the Harrison family, Emma sat in the front row, calm and ready. "This teacher," the mayor began, pointing at Emma, "has created chaos in our peaceful school. She's turned students against each other, involved law enforcement in what should be internal matters." "Excuse me," a voice called out. Jasmine Rodriguez stood, trembling but determined. "Can I say something?" The mayor tried to wave her off, but other students began standing too. Sophie, Marcus, even kids Emma didn't know. "Brock Harrison has bullied me for 3 years," Jasmine said, voice growing stronger. "I reported it 5 times. Nothing happened. Miss Winters is the first teacher who stood up to him. He cheated off my tests all last year," another student added. "When I complained, he got detention." One by one, students shared their stories, years of harassment, intimidation, abuse of power. Parents began shifting uncomfortably as they realized what their children had endured in silence. "Lies," Mayor Harrison sputtered. "All lies." "Actually," the IT director stood up. "Tablet inhalt. We found something interesting in our investigation. The deepfake wasn't the only thing on that computer. There's a whole folder labeled Leverage, with compromising photos and information about dozens of students." The auditorium erupted. Parents demanded answers. Board members called for order. In the chaos, Brock tried to slip out, but found his path blocked by Officer Martinez. "Brock Harrison, you're under arrest for conspiracy to distribute harmful material and cyberstalking." As they led him away, he locked eyes with Emma. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. She simply nodded, one fighter acknowledging another's defeat. Later that evening, Emma was packing up her classroom when Sophie knocked. "Miss W., a bunch of us wanted to thank you. What you did. It changed everything." Emma looked at the group of students gathered in her doorway. They stood taller now, no longer afraid. "You changed everything," she told them. "You found your voices. I just showed you it was possible to use them." As they left, Emma reflected on the battle she'd won, but she knew it wasn't over. Mayor Harrison still had power, still had influence. The war for Oakwood High's soul had only just begun. Her phone rang, an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, then decided she was done running from confrontation. "Miss Winters?" The voice was female, older. "This is Patricia Chen, Regional Director for the State Board of Education. We've been monitoring the situation at Oakwood. We'd like to discuss placing you in a special position to help reform the school's anti-bullying policies." Emma smiled. The battle was won, but the war continued, and she was ready for whatever came next. The next morning brought an unusual sight to Oakwood High. News vans lined the street as reporters covered the unfolding scandal. The headline, "Mayor's Son Arrested in School Cybercrime Ring," had gone viral overnight. Emma arrived early, hoping to avoid the cameras, but found her classroom already occupied. 7 members of the school board sat waiting, along with Superintendent Walsh and a woman Emma didn't recognize. "Miss Winters," the superintendent began formally. "This is Dr. Catherine Morgan from the State Education Department." She's here to conduct an investigation into the systemic failures at Oakwood High. Doctor, Morgan stood, extending her hand. I've reviewed your documentation. Miss Winters, it's thorough, professional, exactly what we needed to see the pattern of abuse here. Board member Blackwood shifted uncomfortably. Surely this is all being blown out of proportion. Boys will be boys. Boys will be held accountable. Doctor, Morgan cut her off. What we've uncovered here goes beyond simple bullying. We're looking at organized harassment, grade manipulation, and corruption that reaches the highest levels of this community. Emma sat carefully, sensing the tension in the room. How can I help? By continuing to do exactly what you've been doing? Doctor, Morgan replied, your courage has inspired dozens of students and teachers to come forward. We've received over 50 formal complaints in the last 24 hours, some going back years. This is a witch hunt. Another board member protested, one teacher stirring up trouble, one teacher doing her job. Superintendent Walsh interrupted, surprising everyone. While the rest of us looked the other way, I'm ashamed it took someone like Miss Winters to force us to confront what we've allowed to happen. The meeting continued for an hour, with board members alternately defending their inaction and trying to distance themselves from the Harrisons. Emma listened, taking notes, until finally Dr. Morgan dismissed everyone except her. I'll be honest, the older woman said once they were alone, this is bigger than just Oakwood. We're seeing similar patterns in schools across the state where influential families have essentially created untouchable dynasties. Your situation has given us the leverage to crack down systematically. What do you need from me? Keep teaching, keep standing firm, and be prepared for backlash. The Harrisons won't go down without a fight. As if on cue, Emma's phone buzzed. A text from Mayor Harrison himself. You've destroyed my family. This isn't over. She showed it to Dr. Morgan, who immediately took a photo. More evidence. He's not very smart, is he? He's not used to consequences. Emma replied. The rest of the day passed in a surreal blur. Students approached her constantly, some to thank her, others to share their own stories. Teachers who had previously avoided her now stopped to express support. Even Vice Principal Harrison, who had hastily clarified to everyone that he was not related to the mayor, apologized for trying to pressure her. But it was the quiet moments that moved her most. When Jasmine turned in an essay about finding courage, tears streaming down her face. When a freshman she'd never spoken to whispered, "Thank you," in the hallway. When she overheard students standing up to would-be bullies, saying, "We don't do that here anymore." The transformation was remarkable, but fragile. Emma knew that real change took time, took constant vigilance. The Harrisons of the world didn't give up easily. That evening, she was heading to her car when she noticed 3 figures waiting by it. Her body tensed, automatically shifting into a defensive stance, but as she got closer, she realized it wasn't a threat. Ryan Torres stood with his parents, looking miserable but determined. "Miss Winters," his mother began, "Ryan has something to say." The boy who had helped terrorize her just days ago now looked at his shoes, shoulders hunched. "I'm sorry. I knew it was wrong, but I was scared of what Brock would do if I didn't go along. That's not an excuse. I wanted you to know." Emma studied him for a long moment. "Thank you for apologizing. Ryan, what matters now is what you do next." "I'm testifying," he blurted out, "against Brock and Chase, telling the police everything. My parents say I might get in trouble too, but it's the right thing to do." His father, a quiet man with calloused hands, spoke up. "We failed our son by not teaching him to stand up against wrong. We're grateful you showed him what courage looks like, even if it came at such a cost." After they left, Emma sat in her car for a long time, processing everything. In 3 weeks, she'd gone from idealistic new teacher to the center of a scandal that was reshaping an entire community. It wasn't what she'd planned, but maybe it was what Oakwood needed. Her phone rang, her mother, calling from Arizona. "Emma, honey, I saw the news. Are you okay? Do you need me to come up there?" "I'm okay." "Mom, better than okay. Actually, fighting again." Her mother sighed, but with fondness, "Just like when you were little, always standing up for the other kids. Some things don't change. Your father would be proud. He always said the martial arts weren't about fighting. They were about having the strength to do what's right." Emma smiled, remembering her father's lessons. Train hard so you never have to use it, but if you must use it, don't hold back. Thanks, Mom. I needed to hear that. As she drove home, Emma passed City Hall, where protesters had gathered demanding Mayor Harrison's resignation. Signs read "Justice for Oakwood Students" and "End the Culture of Silence." She recognized several of her students in the crowd, standing tall, voices raised. Change was coming to Oakwood. It would be messy, difficult, sometimes dangerous, but it was coming, and Emma Winters would be right in the middle of it, ready for whatever happened next. 3 weeks after Brock Harrison's arrest, Emma Winters stood in the empty gymnasium at 6 a.m., working through her morning routine. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut. The familiar rhythm centered her mind for whatever battles the day would bring. She didn't hear the door open behind her. So the rumors are true? Emma spun around to find Mayor Harrison standing in the doorway, flanked by 2 large men in suits. Not school security. Private muscle. This is school property, Emma said calmly, though her body shifted subtly into a defensive stance. You're trespassing. I own this school, Harrison snarled, stepping forward. I own this whole town, and you're about to learn what happens to people who cross me. Emma's eyes tracked all 3 men, calculating distances and angles. Are you threatening me, Mayor? Because I'm recording this. She gestured to the security camera in the corner, its red light blinking steadily. Harrison's face darkened. Those cameras have a funny way of malfunctioning. One of his men pulled out a device, pointed it at the camera. The red light died. Now, the mayor continued, we're going to have a conversation about dropping charges against my son, and you're going to listen very carefully. Emma took a slow breath, feeling the familiar calm that came before combat. I'm not dropping anything. Your son is a criminal who terrorized students for years. He's exactly where he belongs. My son is an 18-year-old kid who made some mistakes. You're destroying his future over nothing. Over nothing? Emma's voice hardened. He had folders of blackmail material on dozens of students. He coordinated harassment campaigns. Shut up, Harrison exploded, his composed mask finally cracking. You think you're some kind of hero? You're nobody. A first-year teacher who doesn't know her place. The man on Harrison's left started moving, trying to flank her. Emma shifted position, keeping all 3 in sight. I know exactly what my place is, she said. It's standing between bullies and their victims. Whether those bullies are 18 or 58? Harrison nodded to his men. Show her what happens to heroes in the real world. The first man rushed her, counting on size and surprise. But Emma had been reading his body language since he walked in. She sidestepped his grab, used his momentum against him, and sent him crashing into the bleachers with a perfectly executed hip throw. He didn't get up. The second man was smarter, more cautious. He had training. Emma could tell by his stance. Military, maybe. Or police. He feinted left, then came in low from the right. Emma blocked his strike, trapped his arm, and delivered 3 rapid strikes to pressure points that left him gasping on the floor. Stop, Harrison backed toward the door, suddenly alone and afraid. You can't. This is assault. Self-defense. Emma corrected, not even breathing hard. Your men attacked me. I defended myself, just like I documented everything about your son, just like I recorded this entire conversation on my phone. She pulled out her device, showing the recording app still running. Did you really think I'd rely on just the school's cameras? Harrison's face went from red to white. You recorded without consent. Single-party consent state. Emma said, and threatening a teacher? Bringing thugs onto school property. Attempting to obstruct justice. How many felonies is that? Mayor? Before he could answer, the gym doors burst open. Principal Coleman entered with 2 security guards and 3 police officers, including Officer Martinez. We got your emergency text. Miss Winters, Martinez said, surveying the scene. Mayor Harrison, you're under arrest for criminal threatening, trespassing, and conspiracy to commit assault. This is a setup, Harrison shouted as they cuffed him. She attacked my security detail. Security detail? Coleman asked. These men aren't licensed security. They're convicted felons from out of state. We ran their plates when they entered the parking lot. As they led Harrison away, he turned back to Emma with pure hatred in his eyes. This isn't over. I have lawyers, connections, I'll bury you. Emma met his Chaza steadily. You can try? By 9 a.m. The video Emma had recorded was evidence in a criminal case. By noon, someone had leaked it to the media. By 3 p.m., it was trending nationally under number teacher takedown. The gymnasium footage, recovered from a backup server Harrison didn't know about, showed everything. Emma's controlled defense against two attacking men twice her size, her calm dismantling of their assault, the mayor of a small town bringing criminals to threaten a teacher, Miss Winters. Sophie Chen practically bounced into her classroom after school. You're famous. Everyone's calling you the MMA teacher. Emma winced. That's not the kind of attention I wanted, but it's the kind we needed, Marcus added, following Sophie in. My mom says the state attorney general is opening an investigation into corruption in Oakwood. The feds are looking into the mayor's finances. You didn't just save our school, you might have saved our whole town. Over the following days, the story exploded beyond anything Emma could have imagined. News crews camped outside the school. Interview requests flooded in from major networks. A Hollywood agent called about movie rights. Emma ignored it all. She had classes to teach, students to protect, but the attention brought unexpected consequences. Miss Winters? Dr. Morgan from the state education department called her during lunch. We have a situation. Since your story went viral, we've received over 300 reports from teachers across the country facing similar situations. Teachers afraid to stand up to influential families, corrupt administrators, systematic bullying. What are you asking me? Would you consider leading a statewide task force on school safety and anti-corruption measures? Your unique combination of teaching experience and other skills makes you ideal for the position. Emma looked out her classroom window at students eating lunch in the courtyard. For the first time in weeks, they looked relaxed, happy, safe. Can I still teach? Part-time. Yes. We want you to stay connected to real classroom experience. Then yes, I'll do it. That Friday, Oakwood High held its first assembly since the arrests. Emma sat on stage with Principal Coleman, Dr. Morgan, and the new interim superintendent. The auditorium was packed with students, teachers, parents, and media. Coleman spoke first. We failed you. All of us in positions of authority failed to protect our students. We let power and influence override our basic duty of care. That changes today. He announced new policies, mandatory reporting of all bullying incidents, anonymous tip lines, regular reviews by external observers, and protection for students who came forward. But policies are just paper, he continued, without people brave enough to enforce them, which is why I'm proud to announce that Miss Winters will be serving as our new student advocacy coordinator. In addition to her teaching duties, the auditorium erupted in applause. Emma saw Jasmine in the third row, tears streaming down her face as she clapped. Ryan Torres sat with a group of students who had previously avoided him, finally free from the toxic associations of his past. When it was Emma's turn to speak, she kept it simple. I'm not a hero. I'm a teacher who did what any teacher should do: protect students. The real heroes are the students who found their voices, who stood up and told their truths despite the risks. You changed Oakwood High, not me. She paused, looking out at hundreds of faces. But I made you all a promise when I started here, even if you didn't know it. I promised to create a classroom where everyone could learn safely. That promise now extends to this entire school, to this entire community. Bullying stops here. Corruption stops here. Fear stops here. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. After the assembly, Emma found herself surrounded by students wanting to share their stories, their hopes, their dreams now that the shadow of fear had lifted. She listened to each one, remembering why she became a teacher in the first place. Miss W., a freshman, approached hesitantly. Could you teach us? The self-defense stuff. I mean, a lot of us want to learn. Emma smiled. I'll talk to Principal Coleman about starting an after-school program. But remember, martial arts isn't about fighting. It's about discipline, confidence, and knowing you can protect yourself and others if necessary. That evening, as Emma packed up her classroom, she found a letter slipped under her door. No return address. But she recognized the handwriting. Miss Winters, I know you'll probably throw this away, but I had to write it. I'm in county jail awaiting trial, and I've had a lot of time to think You were right about everything. I was a bully. A coward hiding behind my father's power. I terrorized kids who couldn't fight back because it made me feel strong. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I'm going to use my time in here to change, really change. Maybe someday I can make up for some of the harm I caused. Thank you for being the first person to hold me accountable. Brock Harrison. Emma read it twice, then carefully folded it and placed it in her desk drawer. People could change. Given the chance and the choice, even bullies. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Saw you on the news again? Your father would be so proud. Come visit soon. Your old dojo wants to give you some kind of award. Emma smiled, thinking of her father and the lessons he'd taught her. Strength wasn't about how hard you could hit, it was about knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. It was about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Chase Mitchell's parents stood in the hallway, looking exhausted and ashamed. We wanted to apologize. Mrs. Mitchell said, we raised a son who thought he could hurt others without consequences. That's on us. What matters is what happens next. Emma replied, echoing what she'd told Ryan. Chase will face justice, but he also needs support to become better. Don't give up on him. They talked for another 20 minutes about rehabilitation programs, about the difference between punishment and accountability, about hope for redemption. It was conversations like these that gave Emma faith in the possibility of real change. As the sun set over Oakwood High, Emma walked through the halls one more time. In just 2 months, she'd gone from nervous new teacher to the catalyst for transforming an entire community. It wasn't the career path she'd planned, but it was the one that mattered. Monday morning brought a new surprise. Emma arrived to find her classroom decorated with handmade signs. Thank you, Miss W. Our hero, the teacher who fights for us. Surprise! Her app literature class shouted as she entered. They'd organized a celebration, complete with a cake shaped like boxing gloves. You guys, Emma said, genuinely touched. This is too much. It's not enough. Sophie insisted. You literally fought for us. Like, actually physically fought. And more importantly, Marcus added, you taught us to fight for ourselves. Not with fists, but with courage. As they shared cake and stories, Emma noticed how different her students seemed. Confident, engaged, unafraid. The same kids who had cowered in silence now debated literature with passion, challenged ideas respectfully, supported each other openly. Miss Winters? Jasmine raised her hand. I got accepted to the journalism program at State. I wrote my admission essay about finding my voice, about you. The class erupted in congratulations for Jasmine. And Emma felt tears prick her eyes. This was why she taught. Not for the dramatic confrontations or the viral fame, but for moments like these when students discovered their own power. Later that day, Emma met with the newly formed Student Safety Council, a group of students, teachers, and parents working to maintain the changes at Oakwood. Ryan Torres had volunteered to serve, determined to make amends for his past. We've had 0 reported bullying incidents this week, he reported proudly. Kids are looking out for each other. It's like the whole culture shifted. Culture doesn't shift on its own. Emma reminded them, it takes constant work. The moment we get comfortable, the moment we stop paying attention, the old patterns creep back in. She was right to be cautious. That very afternoon, a group of parents arrived at the school, demanding Emma's resignation. They called themselves Parents for Traditional Values, but Emma recognized them as friends and supporters of the Harrison family. She's teaching our children violence, one woman shouted at the emergency school board meeting that evening, encouraging vigilante justice. Emma sat quietly as they ranted, waiting her turn. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the same calm authority she'd shown in every confrontation. I taught students to defend themselves against assault. I showed them that bullies could be stopped. If you consider that radical or dangerous, then I have to wonder which side are you on? She pulled out a stack of letters. These are from students, 57 of them. Each one describes years of bullying they endured in silence, because they thought no one would help them. Because people like you told them to keep quiet. Don't make waves. Don't challenge those in power. One by one, she read excerpts, stories of pain, fear, humiliation. The room grew quieter with each testimony. So yes, Emma concluded, I taught them to fight back, not to attack. but to defend. Not to bully, but to stand against bullying, and I'll keep teaching that as long as there are students who need to hear it. The board voted unanimously to support her continued employment. The parents for traditional values left in defeat, their movement dying before it could take root. As the school year drew to a close, Emma reflected on the transformation she'd witnessed. Oakwood High had become a model for schools nationwide. Delegations visited to learn about their anti-bullying programs. Teachers requested transfers to join their reformed environment. The senior graduation ceremony was particularly poignant. As valedictorian, Sophie Chen gave a speech about courage, directly crediting Emma for showing them what it looked like. When Brock Harrison's name was not called, he was finishing his diploma in juvenile detention. There was a moment of silence that felt like closure. After the ceremony, Emma stood in the parking lot where it had all started, where she'd first confronted Brock and his friends. So much had changed since that day. "Miss Winters," a voice called. She turned to see a middle-aged man she didn't recognize. "I'm James Morrison, Jasmine's uncle. I wanted to thank you. My niece was. She was in a dark place before you came. You saved her life. Literally." He shook her hand with tears in his eyes, then hurried away. Emma stood there, absorbing the weight of his words. She'd focused so much on the physical confrontations, the dramatic moments, that sometimes she forgot the quiet victories. The students who found hope, the families reunited, the futures reclaimed. Her phone rang. "Dr. Morgan with news about the task force." "Emma, the governor wants to expand the program nationwide. The Department of Education is interested in creating a new position, National Coordinator for Student Safety and Advocacy. The job is yours if you want it." Emma looked back at Oakwood High, at the students still celebrating on the lawn. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But Emma, you could help millions of students across the country. Your methods, your courage, they're exactly what our education system needs." That evening, Emma sat in her empty classroom one last time before summer break. Awards and commendations covered one wall, but it was the student artwork and thank you notes that she treasured most. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Ryan Torres stood in the doorway. "Miss Winters, I just wanted to say, I start community college in the fall. Criminal justice program. I want to become a youth counselor. Help kids before they make the mistakes. I did. And that's because of you. Because you showed me that people can change." After he left, Emma made her decision. She would take the national position, but she would never stop teaching. She would split her time, maintaining that vital connection to real students while working to protect millions more. As she locked her classroom door, Emma smiled. She'd started the year hoping to teach literature to teenagers. Instead, she'd taught an entire community about courage, justice, and the power of standing up to bullies. Her father had been right. The martial arts weren't about fighting, they were about having the strength to do what's right, and sometimes, what's right is teaching others to find their own strength. The summer sun set over Oakwood High, casting long shadows across a school transformed. In the fall, Emma Winters would return, not just as a teacher, but as a guardian, a warrior, and a symbol of hope for students everywhere. The bullies had learned their lesson. Don't mess with the MMA teacher. But more importantly, the victims had learned theirs. They didn't have to be victims anymore. 6 months later, Emma stood before Congress, testifying about school safety and anti-bullying legislation. The same calm presence that had faced down Mayor Harrison now addressed senators and representatives. "Every day in America," she said, looking directly at the committee, "thousands of students suffer in silence because we've created systems that protect the powerful instead of the vulnerable." Oakwood High was not unique. It was typical. The only difference was that someone finally said enough. She clicked to a slide showing statistics. "Since implementing our programs, we've seen bullying incidents drop by 92%. Academic performance has increased across all demographics. Mental health referrals have decreased by 60%. This isn't just about safety, it's about creating environments where students can actually learn." After her testimony, Senator Williams approached her. "Miss Winters, your story has inspired similar movements in 12 states. The legislation we're proposing, Emma's Law, they're calling it will mandate the protections you pioneered." That evening, Emma's phone rang. It was Sophie Chen, now a freshman at State. "Miss W, Congress passed it, Emma's Law passed, Every school in America will have to implement anti-bullying protocols based on your model." Emma smiled, thinking of all the students who would never have to face what Jasmine had faced, what countless others had endured in silence. "It's not my law, Sophie. It belongs to every student who found their voice, every teacher who found their courage, and every community that chose change over comfort." The fight wasn't over. It never would be. But now, millions of students would have what Oakwood High had found: hope, protection, and the promise that someone would stand up for them, and sometimes, that's all it takes to change the world.